Y'all planning for this?
Welcome back, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Shalansky, an episode of Worlds to Conquer, and today I want to talk to you about toxic charity. So what I'm referring to here is oftentimes I get pushback for there's like 3 different types of financial advisors out there in the space. And one, a first financial advisor, they are hell bent to be millionaires. They're going to do whatever it takes in order to crush their goals, make hard decisions, and make the money that they want to make. And then there are the people that got into financial planning for super altruistic reasons. And they want to help break the poverty cycle. They want to be the change that they want to see in the world. They want to stop generational poverty. And they really want to give back to the community. And then somewhere in the middle, that's where most of us reside. And most of us reside between, hell yeah, we want to make a ton of money and we want to be driven towards achieving our goals and building great practices and doing all of these extraordinary things. But we also want to help people, but we don't want to give away the farm. And if you're like most financial advisors that I end up talking to, we're all somewhere in that middle where we really are goal-driven individuals, but we do care about the work that we're doing. And that's when it becomes incredibly hard to increase fees or graduate clients or make tough calls to hand a relationship to another financial advisor, to another protege, to a junior, especially when it's been somebody that you've been working with for a really long time. It becomes incredibly emotionally grueling to hand that relationship off to somebody else. So we end up keeping clients that maybe shouldn't be on our books anymore. Maybe they shouldn't be a part of our surge anymore. And I want to talk a lot about that because at Shalansky & Associates, that's our RIA up at Anchorage, Alaska. And we practice surge. And surge is really hyper-focused time periods in which we are doing nothing but meeting with our clients. And we have a spring surge that is mid-March to mid-April. And then we have a fall surge that is mid-October to mid-November. In between those 2 big surge periods, we have our mini surges. And so one time a month, we'll block out times that we just meet with clients or we meet with prospects. And this is a great placeholder. For one, we like to be busy. We like to connect with our clients. If a client wasn't able to make it into one of our big surges, this is a good catch-all area. This is also a great opportunity to have that second appointment if you brought on a client during one of your surges. And this is a fantastic prospecting area as well. So when we do these mini surges, we are able to deliver massive value to clients, spend more time outside of the office, and be highly profitable in the process by incorporating this surge schedule. But when I talk to you about this surge schedule, it's really, really important that when I surge, you surge, we surge. The whole office is on the exact same surge schedule because when you're not in surge together, you're not in harmony, you're not in synergy, and you're also asking everyone else in your organization to surge at various time periods. So we surge at the exact same time for the benefit and value of our team and our clients. But as you can imagine, if you're surging during a finite period of time, so for us, Shalanskys, it's 4 weeks. For a couple of our proteges, it's 6 weeks long for the surge period. And then we wrap everything up. But if it's 4 to 6 weeks, that's a finite period. You can't fit everybody in unless you know the exact number of clients that you need to see. And you got to be really, really hyper disciplined about this. So when we look at scheduling surge and how we do this, I want to talk about the pitfalls of what you could fall into if you are a financial advisor trying to implement surge and mini surges and you have hundreds of clients. So if you have a bunch of broker-dealer clients, a bunch of retail clients, and you just have hundreds of accounts that you have an obligation to speak to every single year, if you're taking money from them, then how do you structure surge? What needs to happen? If you have hundreds of clients, you just can't see them all as a single person during a very specific period of time, unless that time is several weeks long, and that might be super exhausting for you. So instead of abandoning surge altogether, when's the last time that you reviewed your book of business? Now, you want a really difficult way to review your book of business? Export all of the households by last name, by financial planning fee, by AUM fee, by client since date. And then what you do is you filter in Excel or Sheets or whatever you're using, and you hide all of the names. And then you sort by your total revenue that you're earning from all of your clients. Because now we're getting into that 80-20 rule. And now I bet 80% of your book of business, the money that you're making, comes from a very small number of clients. And the rest of it comes from the majority of people that have just kind of limped along, that you think that you've been doing a favor for all of these years. But let's talk about that favor. So what ends up happening is, whether you think so or not, you're having your top earning clients. And if you look at that list and you look at the top 10, I bet if your practice is anything like ours, your top 10 clients don't take a lot of your time. They're really great professionals. They're super affluent, and they're easy to make decisions, and you have great meetings with them, but they aren't laborious. They aren't calling your office every single week because they don't need something from you every single week. So when you look at all of that and you look at your top set of clients, how many people now do you have subsidizing the rest of your book of business? Because that's what you're doing. So if you have income goals that you want to make, and you say, hey, my minimum fee to work with me is, and whatever your minimum fee is, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, it doesn't matter. Whatever you say your minimum fee, when you're doing all your goal setting around all your peers, that in order to take on a client, you've got to make X amount of dollars per household. These are all of the people that are under that number. And you can do this with your AUM percentage as well. I know a lot of financial advisors out there. I mean, it's pretty standard in the industry that you're charging anywhere from 0 to 3%. So a lot of them say, hey, I charge everyone 1%. Great. Export that data. When's the last time you reviewed it? Is that true? Do you have everyone at a point, or some people underneath a point? Now, you can justify all of the reasons why, but you need to give yourself rules around these exceptions. So we don't just say, hey, listen, if you're not paying me enough, see you later, bye. But you do have to have an earnest conversation that you're okay setting up this socialist mentality where you have a few taking care of the many, because that's what you're doing. You're not discounting the fees for your larger clients. What you're doing is you're charging the larger fees on clients that you think can pay you more, and the rest of your book of business is being subsidized by those individuals. That's what's probably happening. That is what I see happen a lot of times. And when we have the names in front of us on that spreadsheet, we make all of the excuses as to why it happened. Oh, they've been with me a long time. Oh, they were my neighbors. Oh, they were my in-laws. Oh, 1,000 different reasons that make us human and compassionate. And I get it. I get it. It's really hard exercise to do, and one we have to remind ourselves to do consistently, because we don't want just a certain group of people subsidizing everyone else. We want to treat everyone, if not equally, at least a little bit fairly. And we also don't want to take those people that are paying us a fee. And by the way, it's not their fault. It's not their fault your practice is being subsidized by someone else. They didn't ask you to do that. They didn't come into your office probably asking you to work for free. They are paying the price that you agreed on in your meeting. You asked them to pay a certain price, and they've been paying it. And that's not their fault. Now, if you've forgotten along the way to bump them up, or you justified the reasons why they can't be bumped up, that's on you as the steward of your organization. Talking about fees with people is really intense conversation. conversation. And we got a lot of head trash about it. And if you have been in business longer than 5 years, you need to be doing this as a healthy exercise. Do you have to change things? Do you have to, oh, those darn Shalanskys are so cold-hearted, they just hide all the names and they cut everyone off that's not paying them X amount of dollars? No, but you got to be a steward of your organization. You have to be analytical about your information. You have to be realistic with yourself, and you have to print down this information. You got to hide those households so we don't let that human bias come up front. And we have to look at it and say, listen, if I've got 300 houses, but only 100 of them are actually paying me the fee I keep telling everyone is my minimum, I got to do something else with this other 200. And maybe that's raising their fees, which in many cases would be a steep and dramatic increase from where they're at. Or maybe it's time I look at bringing in a protege. Maybe it's time I look at householding these accounts and I'm no longer suitable for them as the financial advisor. But what I often see happening, and this is a great travesty, this is such an injustice, is that instead of doing this hard work, and it is hard work, there's nothing fun about doing this exercise, but instead of doing it, what you'll do is you'll make sure that those top 100 clients are seen every single surge. You'll make sure that you're responding back to them in prompt amount of times. You'll make sure you're delivering massive value to them. But the rest of those people that are paying what you ask them to pay, that are being subsidized by that top 100, you're not going to pay as much attention to. You're not going to give them everything that you're giving your top 100. I wish it wasn't the case. You might be the exception listening to that and say, oh, no, that's not true. I go above and beyond. But do you? Do you really go above and beyond? Do you really make sure that you're delivering massive value to those households? Do you really make sure that you're having the important conversations with those people that you are with your top clients? Because if you were, you wouldn't dismiss them from your surge schedule. They would be scheduled in your surge schedule. They would be at the top front of your surge schedule. You would make sure that you're delivering massive value. You'd make sure that you're providing them with value adds, and you'd make sure that they were seen every single cycle on time. But what happens most of the time is those individuals end up getting put off, and they'll be just fine. So maybe you'll touch base with them one time a year, and heck, you know your relationship with your client better than I do. Maybe that's all they need. But during that one touch base, are you really providing massive value? Are you giving them everything that they need from you? Or are you check marking a box for compliance and saying that you talked to them? So this is a business practice exercise that you need to be doing at least once a year so that you're not drinking your own Kool-Aid. You're not buying your own BS. So many times we get caught up in helping other people and making sure that their lives are okay that we forget to really look at our practice as business owners. We get so busy working in our business, we forget to work on our business. And we have to do that. We have to make tough calls. We have to sit down. Now, do I think that you should just graduate and dismiss all of these clients? No, probably not. I don't know what your relationship is like with them. Now, if you're not talking to them and you're not servicing them, then hell yes, you should get rid of them. And you should get rid of them because you're failing them. And some other financial advisor just entering the space, they're not going to fail them. They're going to rise above. This might be their top clients. And so you really need to look at that. Maybe that's also developing a relationship with some type of junior or protege that you want to bring into the organization. And now you want to start finessing and handing off those relationships to those people so that they can get better serviced and that they can have those tough conversations with those individuals that you're not having. Now, if you're saying to yourself, I'm too nice of a gal, I'm too nice of a guy, I don't like to do that to people. You know, if you ever come into a realm in which you're assessing yourself as saying you're too nice, then you violated some type of rule you forgot to write down. And that is about creating these really healthy boundaries. And boundaries is this wonderful world that people use incorrectly all the time. We think we create boundaries like fences to keep people out. No, boundaries keep you in. They keep you in your healthy space. So if you are too nice, then you need to make sure that you're setting boundaries around what I call toxic charity. And this is a great great book out there that you need to go read if you haven't. And it talks about toxic charity and how we, with all good altruistic intentions, unwind a lot of what we should be doing to help our fellow man. And in this book, I'll just kind of summarize some of what I got away. There were 5 different levels of this toxic charity that you had to be aware of. So when you first help someone, when you first go out of your way to help them, that person is super appreciative. They're super grateful. I mean, they recognize that you did something that most people do not normally do. Now, the second time that you help them, they anticipated that you would help them because you helped them before. So there's an anticipation of behavior that you have the type of character or personality that is going to help them. And then that third level comes in. That third level, that third time that they're asking for your help, they're expecting you to say yes. So they're not anticipating you to say yes. They're expecting you to help them because you always have. And so now we have a learned behavior. So that first time they're super appreciative. The second time they're anticipating you're still going to help them. And then that third time, they are expecting that same level of commitment from you because now it's a developed pattern. That fourth time that you go to help them, they now feel entitled to being helped. Because now we've gone off of learned behavior, and now this is an assumption. You will give me this. I am entitled to this because you've always done it, and that's what you do, and that's what I receive. So we have this level of entitlement. And then that fifth level of toxic charity is about dependency. And this is where we stop helping people and we've started hurting them. And so we don't intentionally do it, but now we've made this person so dependent on us, they cannot problem solve. They cannot find opportunities to go solve for themselves. So how do we take these lessons about toxic charity and look at our book of business and look at ways that maybe we've created situations of either dependency, entitlement, expectation, or anticipation? Now, you know that in our RIA up in Anchorage, Alaska, Shalansky and Associates, that Floyd and I love to work with a lot of business clients. And those business clients oftentimes lead to referrals. And this last few years, I've just had an explosion of referrals, which is just a beautiful bounty blessing to have. And those referrals come from individuals that look at a successful business owner and they say, hey, Bob, the client, how did you do all this? Can you help mentor me? And luckily, I work with enough good people that Bob says, you know what? You've really got to talk to Jamie. You've got to talk to the Shalanskys. I wouldn't be where I am without them. They're how I got here and how I set these things up correctly. Go talk to them. So we have this explosion of these business owner referrals, these small business people. Now, when I meet with a lot of small business people, I can go through things and I can get really excited, but not everyone is going to match my style, and not everyone has enough to afford the level of service that I want to provide when we onboard new clients. So what we talk about is our 3 Ps, right? They've got to be personable, they've got to be productive, and they've got to be profitable. And if we can't check mark all of those things, I might have a courtesy meeting with them and I'll send them on their way. So recently, this last year, I was asked to come in and talk to a business owner of a large gym organization. And it was by one of the hospitals that I help work with. And they said, listen, you really got to talk to Jamie. You're at the cusp of something great here, but you're just kind of making small business mistakes, because people that start small businesses don't have MBAs normally. They get into it because they want to do something better than somebody else did or has done. They want to be the disruptor to that marketplace. And so they end up getting into that space and having great success, but they forgot all of these building blocks that running a business should be about, all that foundation stuff. So they'll reach out to me, we sit down, and I'll have a courtesy call and I'll have a courtesy conversation with them. I'll go through things. I ask for the profit and loss. I ask for the balance sheet. We go through their financials. We go through their goals. And it's always about the goals, right? Like, I want to build this big empire. How do I get there? And we start slashing through all the things that they're not doing today that's preventing them from getting there. Now, sometimes I will get through the end of this appointment and that person isn't hitting my 3 Ps. Either they're not personable, which means I don't want to go get a drink with you, or 2, they are not productive, which means they're not coachable. They're not listening to advice and taking that advice. Or 3, they're not at a place that is profitable for me to onboard them as a client. I would be subsidizing them if I brought them in at that level. So now I've got to look at my rules. And my rules are at Shalansky & Associates, every financial advisor gets 5 exceptions a year. 5. One handful. So I can bring on this person and at a lower rate than I would normally. I'm not going to do any less work because that goes against my rules. That's a rule violation. So I can bring this person on at a lower rate than I would anyone else as one of my 5 rules. Now, oftentimes I don't do this because I don't like to work for free. And just because I brought you on as a lower rate doesn't mean I will treat you any different than my top paying client. And for me, I recognize all of the work that I'm putting in, and I cannot begrudge a person for paying me less than what I asked them to pay me. That's not fair. So with this particular person, I had the first meeting and they were so appreciative, mind blown. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Now, we give him a timeline. You got to go do these things. Okay. So he went and did these things. He did exactly what I told him to, comes back in for that second meeting, but they're still not in that third stage of profitability. Right? They still can't afford to hire me yet. And I don't see a way for me to make the money that I need to just yet from this client. Now I could get super creative or I could stick with my rules. And my rules say, I'm going to give you another consultation. But during that consultation, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to outline what you have to do. And I'm going to tell them right now you're at the appreciative stage. And I'm super happy about that. I love working with grateful people. That's my driving value as a human being is gratitude. So if you weren't grateful, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today. Now, the second meeting, you're anticipating that I'm going to provide you with value, and I'm 100% going to do that. You're also anticipating that I'm not going to charge you because I haven't charged you yet. So now it's time for me to set the rules of engagement. This is the second meeting you will have with me. This is the last meeting you will have with me without a cost. So that third meeting, you need to go and do these things because at that third meeting, I'm going to ask you to cut a really big check, and you need to put yourself in a position in order to do that. Because if you can't, that's okay, but I need to disengage, and I wish you all the absolute best. Now, what have I done here? What have I done here with that person? 1, I've honored the referral that came in from that original client, the one that is paying me X amount of dollars. Now, keep in mind, clients talk. They talk to each other. So if I had discounted or subsidized that person, how would my client feel? Would they feel, oh, thank you so much for giving so-and-so a break? Or would they be like, hey, looks like you will work for a lot less. Why am I paying you this? So I want to avoid those type of situations. Okay. What am I also doing? I'm honoring the fact that I'm going to show up because I said I would show up. I'm going to deliver massive value because that's the deal. That's the deal I made. That's the promise and the obligation I have with myself when I meet with somebody. I want to deliver as much value as possible. And if I can't do that, I got to point them towards somebody else that can. I'm not going to be dismissive of that relationship. I'm not going to be annoyed because I'm doing what I said I was going to do. I could have said no. There are people I say no to. There's a woman that wanted to start one of those IV hydration, places that you see all over Vegas and stuff like that. And this woman sought me out. I mean, for months she just badgered me to get it on the calendar. And I just kept telling her, no, I'm not going to work with her. Why? Because she drives me nuts. I don't like her. Her personality and my personality, they don't align. And that's okay. I don't have to work with everyone. But if I would have told her yes, guess what I would have done? I would have checked the fact that I didn't like her. And I would have showed up to every single meeting and delivered absolute value. And she 100% would have hired me. And she would have 100% paid whatever fee I asked her to pay because she had the means to do so. So I need to make sure that I'm honoring my rules and not getting so hell-bent on taking on every person that wants to hire you. Just because somebody wants to hire you doesn't mean they're a good fit for you. Now, had I done this with this particular person and we grew this massive empire, would I made a ton of money? Yes. Would I give them good advice that she was able to follow? Yep, sure would have. Would I have been happy with that relationship, or would I bemoan every time I saw this person on the calendar? Come on. What am I solving for? I'm solving for affluence, but I'm solving for joy at the same time. So I have to be able to check those things, and I have to be able to balance those things within myself. Also, when I'm framing it for this person on that second meeting, I'm also setting the ground rules. Here's the rules of engagement. I met with you one time. I didn't charge you anything for that appointment, though I normally do. I did this as a courtesy towards this relationship. Did I provide you with value? And that's normally when they're like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did all of these things. This was so wonderful. You opened my eyes. Fantastic. Great. Okay. During this meeting, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to walk you through exactly what you have to do over the X amount of period of time. This is weeks, months, years, whatever. And then by that third meeting, if we meet again, if we end up in a conference room again, you are going to write me a very large check because we're going to now go smash these goals. We're now going to do these other things. But if you don't put yourself in a position for that, that's okay. I wish you the absolute best and nothing but prosperity. And then we've got good rules of engagement. Then they know that they anticipate next time I'm going to ask them for a really big check. And that's what I always say. I'm going to have you write me a really big check because I want to anticipate that our fees are very, very high, so that when they get the number, they are feeling a little bit more confident about that decision. But I also want to remind them, I'm not doing this for free. I'm not that altruistic as an individual. I don't want to just give away things for free. There are people that is their passion, that is their pursuit, and that is their happiness, and they're phenomenal for it. And I'm grateful that they do the work that they're doing, but that's not where I find joy. That's not what I want to do. And so by setting these rules of engagement, now I've honored the relationship with the referrer. And then I've also delivered on what I said I was going to do, which is my own personal commitment. But now we have a better understanding that if we're going to work together, there will be a price for this, because I don't want to let somebody sneak in that years later, I'm like, hey, listen, Bob and Sue, I know you're paying me exactly what I asked you to pay me, but it's actually like 20% of what everyone else is paying me. I have no fault of your own, and I'm going to have to skyrocket your fees now. That's not a fair conversation. That's not a fun conversation. And Bob and Sue didn't do anything wrong. I, as a financial advisor, wasn't practicing good discipline with my business. And now I'm in toxic charity situations. And I don't want that. I want to avoid that. I want to empower people. I want this to feel fair and honorable amongst each other. We have to be good stewards of our business. We have to take the time to work on our business and not just in it. Sometimes people call this the CEO days, the executive days. When am I looking at my practice and saying, you know what? I really need to sharpen this skill. I got to do the dirty work. I got to do the hard work. I got to do the emotional work to make sure my practice is running as efficiently as possible. Now, if you don't have a good social network to make this happen, go get one. This is one of the reasons we offer masterminds for the Perfect RIA members. Remember, at the Perfect RIA, we offer our audience 2 types of membership. So you can listen to all of the podcasts that you want for free. You can join us every quarter when we do nationwide webinars and get really great advice from Matthew Jarvis and Micah Shalansky. Or you can say, you know what? I've got to take this one step further. I got to level up. I've got to do more. And so we offer you 2 types of memberships. One of them is called Backstage Pass. Backstage Pass is online access to everything that we use in our RIA. And then it's like a gym membership. The equipment's there, but nobody's going to help you figure out how to do it. You got to go do it yourself. And then we also have Invictus. And Invictus is like hiring the world's best Olympian personal trainer. This is when you are getting sculpted. This is when you are taking your deep dive on your practice and saying, okay, boom, this 90 days, you got to work on this. This next 90 days, you got to work on this. And we go through everything. We go through concepts just like this, which is business management, practice management, how to raise fees, how to prospect, how to deliver massive value, when to set up your surge schedules. I mean, we just rip through your practice and make sure that you are following the best tenets possible to be the financial advisor you want to be. So if you're listening to this podcast and you have not signed up for one of our memberships yet, what are you doing with your life? If you are a team member listening to this podcast and your financial advisor isn't giving you the training that you need to accelerate your career, career in financial services, you need to get him signed up for Invictus, because when he becomes an Invictus or she becomes an Invictus member, then you get access to our team trainings as well. You get to see what I do for Shalansky and Associates and how we level up our team members on a continued regular basis. So make sure you reach out to us. You can go to theperfectra.com about our memberships, or you can email us at lifestyle@theperfectra. But you have to take action. You have to break inertia. You have to do something different. You need to be aligned with people that are looking at business practices just like what we talked about today and saying, okay, what's the best way for me to do this? I know I have too many clients. I know I have clients subsidizing other clients. How do I organize and shift this so I'm still delivering massive value, but I'm not being so heartless that I'm forgetting about those who brought me to the dance? You've got your original clients. You've got the ones that brought you in and gave you a chance. So of course, those are the ones that you want to keep and the heartbeats. But if you're not servicing those people, what are you really doing for them besides just accepting a paycheck that they agreed to pay you and isn't enough for you to actually pay your bills with? So make sure you're doing the dirty work. Make sure you're aligning yourself with people that know how to do this, because they too are financial advisors. They're not just coaches from other industries telling you what it should be like. They know what it's like to sit down in front of a client and graduate someone. They know how hard it is to let a client go or to pass them on to another relationship. So make sure you're working with somebody that is in the trenches doing the work that you are doing. That is so important. TPR Nation, you know that at The Perfect RA, we are 100% about giving you actionable advice that you can take right now and implement in your practice. So here's what I want you to do. The very first thing that I want you to do is I want you to carve out on your calendar a CEO day. When are you going to be working on your business? And this should be at least one day at the end of every quarter. One day at the end of every quarter, you're actually going through your key performance indicators. You're actually going through your OKRs. You're going through your profit and loss. You're going through your goals, through your rocks, through all of those measurables, and you're looking at everything. And make a checklist of everything that you think you should be looking at, because oftentimes, and this happens to the best of them, the most disciplined financial advisors I know out there, if we walked into their office and we printed down an AUM sheet and they tell me, Jamie, everyone in my business pays at least 1%, if not more, I will find someone. Because people squeak by. We forget to bump somebody up. We make an excuse as to why we didn't have somebody at this range where they should be. So what are those things that you're doing that maybe just squeaked by for too long? Maybe you haven't raised your fees. Maybe you haven't met with this person in enough time. And then I want you, as a second action item, to really look if you find yourself being the person that's too nice. I have too big of a heart. I want to help too many people. I mean, where does that end? For most people, if you have that big of a heart, it ends up in the poorhouse, right? Because then we're always making the exceptions. So instead, give yourself the rules that you're allowed to follow in order to be the financial advisor you want to be. I talked to you about in our office, we're allowed to have 5 exceptions, just a handful. Now, if you go into exception number 6, me as the financial advisor, I got to write a check for that person. So for example, we charge for our initial consultations. They're $497. I get 5 exceptions a year. So if I get a referral in, I can waive the fee for that person if I choose to. That sixth person that calls our office, if I say, go ahead and waive the fee, I've got to cut a check for $497. Those are the rules of the engagement of how the exceptions are going to work. And then I really, really encourage you to read about toxic charity and ask yourself, are there ways that you have, and this could not just be clients, right? I mean, when I was talking about how people are first appreciative, second anticipated, 3 they expect, 4 they're entitled, and by the 5th time you do it, their dependency really escalates. Maybe this is your kids. Maybe this is your adult children that you're trying to help. Maybe you got somebody in your life that's struggling with substance abuse and you're really trying to help get them back on their feet. And the first time you help them, they're appreciative. Then they anticipate that you're always going to answer the 3 a.m. call when they get evicted. The 3rd time, they're expecting you to bail them out of jail. That 4th time, they feel entitled that you have money, so you should help them get back into rehab. And by that 5th time, they can't pay their own rent. They can't buy their own groceries. But man, they can always find money for a little bit of drugs or a little bit of alcohol. So Maybe there's people in your life that you've been trying to help, but you're really just hurting them. You're really just making them dependent. TPR Nation, this is Jamie Shalansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer. Go find people who share your values and change the world.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife.